Welcome, everybody. I've got goosebumps and butterflies in my stomach. Welcome to our world famous Sunday gathering. I'm Sandra Champlain. If we have not yet met, coming from the United States, I am in the state of Rhode Island, just south of Boston, Massachusetts. We have our friend Tim Southwell with us today, coming to us from Ontario, Canada, and from Ireland, we have the wonderful Craig Dowling. Yay! Yes, you read that right. This is Sunday Gathering number 228. When old COVID hit the world several years ago, several of my friends and I came together to try to create something because we were all housebound. So we modeled our Sunday gathering loosely around a spiritual service. And with that, of course, there's prayers and there's healing and there is a medium demonstration along with the address. So we thought, let's come together and do that. We thought it would be a short time thing, but guess what? It has caught on globally. So each Sunday, we have not missed one yet. We are here really celebrating life and the afterlife. Our goal is to inspire you, to empower you, and also to let you know just how close the two worlds are. In fact, sometimes we think the afterlife is somewhere out there, but I actually think we're part of it as opposed to it being outside of ourselves. In fact, I love the word hereafter because I think really that's what it is. We're just vibrating at a little different frequency. So we want to welcome you to our Sunday gathering. Our theme today, yes, it's on patience. We're going to do a little bit differently. Normally we have a reading and an address. We're going to do something a little bit more interactive today. So I just ask that you sit back, relax, know that you are welcomed here. That chat box is open should you have some words about patience yourself. And yeah, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'd like to turn it over to Tim first for our opening prayer.
Thanks, Sandra, and welcome also, everybody. It's good to see so many new faces, or new names at least. Can't see the faces, but there's a lot of new people here, so that's fantastic. So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes as we begin our opening prayer. We give thanks that we have this wonderful opportunity to gather together with like minds, with similar intent, and the desire to explore more. We have a curious mind, and we do want to express how much we are interested in the hereafter. It's within each of us to wonder, is there more? And as we explore today, we ask to keep an open mind as we find answers. They may be very subtle. They may be in the title of a song. They may be in a word spoken partway through, but they will be there. And the more we keep our mind open, the more we can dig deeper. And let us hope that we find within ourselves strength, courage, and the will to want to explore even more. And we give thanks for all who are here and for the spirit world as well. Amen.
Thank you so much, Tim. We're going to go right into our healing today, which will give us more time for our interaction, talking about our theme of patience. Before I start, I do know we have lots of new friends with us today, and you might be wondering why you can't see anybody else here on Zoom. We go over 100 people on our Sunday gatherings, and with that, we have to use the webinar style. So please know we can see your names, your camera remains off, and we'll explain more as the time goes on. So if it's a little different for you, that's why. As we go into our healing segment, we like to play a song, and this is an opportunity to send healing to all that is in need. We know we're living on a planet right now that needs some help. People, places, pets, and more. With that, the best way to offer our healing is to just picture those you love, yourself and others, healthy, whole, complete, and well. You don't have to do too much work at all. Those in the unseen world can use our human energy and direct it to where it is needed. So we have a song, and just after the song ends, you might be caught a little off guard because we have a word from Elmo. on patience. So let's start with our healing song. If you'd like to close your eyes, feel free to. It's not necessary, but just offer your love, and those in the unseen world can use it to wherever it is directed or needed. I couldn't help it. I had to share that. It was so cute. Normally, we have an address, and that is one of us or two of us sharing some inspiration. But Tim and Craig today thought we could make it a little bit more interaction and have a conversation about patience. And after 228 weeks, we like a little new and different, don't we? So if you fellas want to unmute yourselves and tell us more and begin our conversation. Tim?
Sure. It's a, it's a matter of who speaks first. So it's sort of going to be as an interview format. So between Craig and I, we'll ask two questions each. We may have time for a question that we all answer. And to be honest, we've had the questions in advance, but I know I haven't practiced or we have not rehearsed. So everything is off the cuff. And to think that these may be other points of opinion. So we're not experts in our field, or maybe in our own field, but not so much in patients. We'll soon discover that. Now, as a teacher, though, too, we want to keep things interactive. So it's important that you're listening, but also to keep your mind active. Think of the answers that you would have come up with as these questions go forward. But we also have a general question for everybody to answer in the chat room. So I'm just about to push. There it is in the chat room. So that's a general question. If you want to take part, absolutely great. If not, that's fine too. So first up, I'll be asking two questions, and our answers are going to be as short and concise as they can be, and we'll see where we go here. Okay, so first of all, we're talking about patience. What would you say is your relationship with patience, and how do you manage your level of patience? And I'm going to go to Sandra first.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Great idea doing this interaction. I would say I try to be patient, but I would also say that I'm human and I can find myself being impatient a lot. So I know what patience is. I know the value of patience. I know that to me, time is an illusion, right? And it's about living in the here and now. But I find myself for some reason, as humans do, wanting to get somewhere else as opposed to enjoying where I am. So I think the best answer for me is that I know far too well what patience is. I don't always practice it, but I do often catch myself and remind myself of the bigger picture. Slow down, things happen in time, all is well, be fully present in the moment and where I'm at. And I think being in the present, miracles can happen, and I pay attention to so much, and I have things to be grateful for.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, Craig.
You forgot to tell everybody else to have patience while we're doing this. But I'd say primarily what patience is to me is being able to listen. Because if you have to be on the other side of me speaking, you have to have patience. If you have to run through a workplace and be in an environment where it's probably not the most healthy, or maybe it can be toxic places like that, you have to have patience. And when you're doing mediumship, even at times, you have to have patience because you have to understand that you can't force anything. Do you know? So I do think that requires listening to yourself internally and taking a kind of a monologue with yourself and saying, you know, not like talking to yourself, but at some level, I think holding a kind of a space, do you know? I think when you have that little bit of awareness just before something happens, that's valuable. And sometimes you can get swept off your feet. You won't know what's happening. But I think that requires patience as well, to kind of listen to your heart instead of your mind, and always do what's logical. If that makes sense.
Good. Thank you. I'm just, before I ask the second question, going to read the one that's in the chat box here, and I see some answers are going up there, which is great. So the question for the everyone listening is, if you had all the patience in the world, What would you try that you've been hesitant to do before? So that's for our chat room. Okay, so my second question then, and starting with Sandra again, is over time, how has the way you've managed patients changed?
Well, Tim, would you be so kind as to answer that first question
Oh, I
yourself?
have to answer it as well?
Yes, we have plenty of time. It's an
Okay.
opportunity. Tim and Craig are both our mediums for today. And just to get to know you before, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. My relationships with patients, well, it's a love-hate relationship. And I don't know necessarily what it is that triggers. I'm on the path of that. And I think that's important for everyone. Find out what triggers patience and not having patience. It's tough sometimes. Some days you wake up and already you're at kind of the zero level and you have to muster it together. Sometimes we're put there as well. And other days we wake up and, we have, I can't think of the expression, but the patience of the gods, the patience of an angel, whatever that might be. And you're driving into work and everything goes smoothly, even though people may be honking and cutting you off. You have the amazing patience. So with that, and how do I manage my level of patience? I am trying to examine how it's different when I become aware of it. So often I am not aware that I'm being patient or not being patient. Oftentimes we're just being ourselves. But if we're aware, that's where we can go in and start sort of observing a bit more and saying, okay, what is it here that gives me a little bit more patience when something's not going the right way and I can still carry it through? I mentioned teaching before. I have the utmost patience with kids. The parent sometimes could be another story. And I know that's just expectation of adults versus someone who's young. And so there's my answer for that one.
All right, ask that question again because I don't remember what you asked.
Okay, yeah. So here, so over time, second question for me is, how has the way you manage patients changed?
Well, I think I can back up to the past 4 years since 2020. I've lived my life really on fast forward. My mom and I had a catering business working with race car teams for over 30 years, working 18-hour days nonstop. And it appeared like time went by extra, extra fast. I remember I was in my 20s when I started that job, and now I'm in my late 50s. And where the heck did that time go? So there was always the next thing to do, as much as I would have liked to. I mean, I was in the present moment, obviously cooking, or else I would have hurt myself more than I did. But I wasn't aware of the small things. And I really was always under a time demand. And now, although there's things to do, and I keep myself very busy, as many of you know, with podcasts and courses and things, I take time for me. I'm patient to say, okay, stop, let's look around, let's be grateful. I had never, believe it or not, really paid attention in the last 30 something years to the changing of seasons because I was that busy. And so I breathe more. I think I don't hyperventilate. I sleep better without an alarm clock going off every day. And I am able to be present in those gaps of time. I think my human beingness is trained to be looking for the next thing and to be very busy. And if I'm not busy, there's something wrong. But it's to just slow down, be in the present moment, be fully present with whoever I'm with or whatever I'm doing. And like I had said earlier, it's to find the gratitude in the small things. We human beings always think the grass can be greener when something is some other way, or when we get to another point in our life, and we spend a whole long life chasing something out there. And patience really, to me, is, for instance, I've got a few tomato plants growing and they were this big when I got them. And no matter how much of a rush I would be in to have them grow, there's nothing I can do except for have that patience. And so, like a little kid, I go out every day and see how they've grown, pick the little tomatoes, pop them in my mouth. And so I have a higher quality of life being more patient and more present. Over to Craig for the next response.
I think it's changed over time because, like Sandra says, you can't force anything. And I don't know what it is about personal opinion, about society today, but in general, it's very fashionable to be on the go constantly. And to just take time to relax is so incredibly difficult sometimes. I remember moments where even starting the mediumship, like Tim will tell you as well, it was the exact same. We were just trying to force the development, trying to really hard-headed, get all the facts, get all the information, trying to make everything fit perfectly. And at some point there, I think we just started to recognize that, we were running ourselves well. I was running myself into the ground, definitely. I was so worried. I think the worry has been less over time. I think that's probably the best thing I could say. And it's helped me to kind of explore creatively who I am as an individual, not just like a medium or anything like that. And to take time out for yourself, I think that's the most important, I would say, definitely.
Okay.
How about you, Tim?
Well, still a bit stymied because I wasn't thinking I was going to answer the questions. But actually, what I did, and I'll try to make this short, was I went to a flashback. I do believe, before I say the flashback, though, genetically in the family, there's more patients than, say, the average person. I think there's a lineage of that, right? I can count that right from my grandma to my parents to myself. So as a kid, I was a pretty hyper kid at times, and there would be very little patience if there was something that was really meaningful, something that I absolutely wanted, to dive into full-heartedly. Very little patience. And as Craig mentioned about the mediumship, I think that kind of had a little trigger at the beginning of that too. Is that, oh yeah, I want to dive in and do this, and so the patience becomes a little less. As a kid, being hyper, I was often then also set outside. And there was a lot of things I just looked after myself. And through that, I think I learned even at that point that not everything comes as quickly as you might wish it to happen. And so you start building that sort of, it's funny, it's like resilience to the need to have something right away. But you get to realize that sometimes things are much sweeter if you do wait a little bit longer. And that sometimes we get the things we want right away and we're not patient and we're kind of disappointed by what we might receive. And there's a bit to do with effort. The more effort that goes into it, again, the sweeter the reward, and the effort takes that patience as well. So I feel with patience, the other aspect that I was considering there is I discovered over time, the more I actually cared about something or someone, the more patience was available. I was willing to kind of, just take put the foot on the brake a bit and not have to worry about how I feel about it and consider more of the other people involved. And that's my second question done. So we're over to Craig to ask for the next set.
Lovely. Thanks, Tim. I think it's interesting for everyone even to just look over the past 4 years and what we've been through. It's been absolutely ecstatic at times and very, very different, I'd say. Well, Sandra, I wanted to ask you personally, how have you found the past 4 years and what has that kind of changed or shifted in you? And does it relate to patience? Does it relate to other kind of values? What did you learn over the past 4 years?
Good question, Craig. As I said before, my mom and I ran this high-paced business. And of course, I had written my book beforehand. It started my podcast before, and I tried to squeeze them in when I could. But I always thought in my heart that I'd love to be full-time sharing not only evidence of the afterlife, but helping people through grief, and then how to have a fun and powerful life while we're here, how to deal with fear, how to be courageous, how, you know, all of those different elements to being human. So while I didn't cause COVID to happen, no, I did not, but in it came what I wished for. You know how they say, be careful what you wish for because you might just get it? Well, not only did I get my wish, but it took away my employment and my ability to pay my bills and pay the mortgage and for food and all that. So not only was the Sunday gathering created, but we started online medium classes, which begin this week, our next round. And so to be able to trust that all is well, even though I don't know what life is going to look like in the future. I've had enough miracles and synchronicities happen in my life to know that there's a bigger picture, truly. And so, did I have ups and downs? You bet I did. Anyone who's experienced any kind of grief knows the side effects, the fear, the constant thinking in our mind, crying, emotions, wanting to eat too much or sleep too much or talk a lot. So I experienced that with the unknown. I really did. And around that same time, my mom developed breast cancer and she's fine now. But we moved in together. We have a house. This is where we are together. And in this time, not only have I gained a greater appreciation of life and the present moment, but going back to what Tim said is my relationship with patients and other people. And mom is upstairs right now watching TV, but I find myself, my current Sandra-ness, being much more patient with other people. When we look at another person, it's just another one of us, you know, with a different look, with all the hopes and dreams and fears and guilt and questions and things. So no one has it right. And being more patient with another, to me, there's a great phrase called give up being right, even when you know you are. And what that means is there's times, whether it's my mom or somebody else, that I can feel it inside, you know, hey, I'm right. I know I'm right. But is an argument worth it? Or is it more important to try to see the other person's perspective and give up being right even when I know I am? Really puts that patience with another person who's seeing life from a different perspective than myself. And it opens up a conversation. Why do you feel that way? And I tell you, anytime we fight, it's like this, right? But if we just step aside, it just simply goes by and it can disappear. So it's given me that ability to have more love and deeper conversations and be patient, because let's face it, you know, last time I looked, I was in my 40s and suddenly I'm 58. How the heck did that happen, right? And I saw this video on YouTube that was all these young movie stars and then their face transformed as they are now and they're much older. We are all heading that way, right? We are. So to have that patience with other people in our life and then also with ourselves, you know, sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. So look in the mirror, say you're a human being having this human experience. There's no guidebook to it. Remember self-love. Remember, there's always that little voice in our head that might not be speaking empowering things, but know that surrounding us, we've got a bunch of cheerleaders in this unseen world, and be patient. So I think that's how I've grown in the last 4 years, Craig.
Thanks very much, Sandra. There's a lot of stuff there. Tim, what do you make of the past 4 years? How would you sum it up yourself?
Have we got 4 years? I would say a lot of these last 4 years has been devoted really to studying mediumship. That's just the way my life switched and changed. As part of that study of mediumship is also the study of self and who you are, your background, why do you react certain ways, what are needs, all of those things enter into it. A key part is understanding more of who I am in these last 4 years. And definitely diving into the mediumship pool had all that eagerness and excitement, and just finally I was getting a lot of answers that I hadn't even known I'd had perhaps for a long, long time. And so that was where I was more impatient with that. And in these 4 years, I would say discovering that patience really can be just a mindset. Why do I have to feel rushed? Why do I have to feel like I have to get through this quicker? Why do I have to react to somebody in that sort of way? It has to do with my mood, what's going on with me at the moment. And that is something that I can control. A lot of things I can't. And that's often when the patience zaps away, is when I can't control something for myself. I'm going to dig deep here with a little bit more of personal things. But when there's lack of control, and I know I'm not the only one, that's where the patience just disappears. So recognizing that, looking at that, discovering that mindset plays a big part of it, that I can somehow change the script, sometimes at least I can try to do that. In these 4 years also, after all the eagerness of study happens and kind of ebbs away a bit, because it is work, it's something that's meaningful. Realizing that not all the answers are just had by practicing, but it's going within and having a deeper trust of self. But it's also, for me personally, it's been, especially since last year, I'd say, a special connection to the spirit world. And that special connection is trust. And their answers are often not fast. It takes patience. They answer in the right time, not my time, the right time. And for that, you have to be open. And you can struggle like a little child that's being, bound up too tight or cuddled too much. In a sense, they're not going to cuddle too much on the other side. They're going to cuddle just right. And if you can learn to trust that, you can learn that there's a slower pace that sometimes happens, and you just go with it. And you live that kind of new sort of look. It's fascinating. I still have the days when I'm really not patient at all. But I find, in the last 4 years, I've grown up to answer that.
Thanks, Tim. For what it's worth, I relate to a lot of that. I think the past 4 years for myself was like it was like going into a cave and not knowing if there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that kind of a way. Because at every turn, sometimes there'd be something that was just magnificent that would happen. Oh, we get to do demonstrations. We get to do the Sunday gathering. I even remember having conversations with you about this. Do you remember? And we'd say to each other, Sandra, we'd be looking and going, oh my God, that's like, I can't do that. There's no way. That's not possible, And now when you're here, it's really nerve-wracking, it is. But when you get to kind of do that and have that actual internal part that goes, hey, you actually affected change in your life. You're not helpless, And I think that's probably the largest thing I've had to deal with throughout the 4 years, is dealing with a toxic work environment, dealing with friends and family, losing friends and family, going through grief, trying to be patient with myself while I'm studying, and trying to live, I guess, a normal life. The one thing that hasn't changed consistently over the past 4 years is the amount of chocolate I consume. So I'm relieved about that. But everything else is basically just down to some level of waiting, And I find that eventually when I wait long enough, which is normally when I'm sitting in the power or meditating or whatever you call it, each to their own, there's kind of a restlessness. And when that kind of dissolves, I find I'm more present and in that space where I'm able to affect change positively in my life. And I don't know if everyone feels this way, but at times, if I'm honest, I can feel really guilty. That's a thing that happens. And I do wonder sometimes whether it's to please everyone or to try and make an effort to take responsibility for everything that's going on with other people, And I guess at some level, it's really a question of what is everything about, do you know? And I think that the more I focused over the years externally on what other people were doing or being, or even in demonstrations, getting quite worried at times, it's allowed me to kind of have a space afterwards to go inward and say, you know, what way do I actually want to live my life? You know, do I want to be guilty all the time or feel like I have to be perfect for everyone and all that stuff, you know? And that just goes back to, I guess, what I was saying about learning to relax again, you know? I think it's very difficult. I don't envy anyone with actual responsibilities because it must be incredibly difficult. And I've heard from some people even how tough it is for them, you know? So hats off to them, I have to say. But it does go right into the next question, actually, which is what do you guys think personally for you is the way that you can kind of deal with the kind of ups and downs with impatience and patience and all of this stuff, you know? Sandra, what do you think of that?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is slow down. And I want to just acknowledge the two of you guys for making this an open forum, because I think when you're doing a medium demonstration or a reading, or I'm doing a podcast, people see the good side of us. But it's important to know that we're human too. Yeah, we are. And we have our stuff. And it doesn't matter who's written a book, who's in the movies, who's a movie star. We're all dealing with our own humanity. And that I get it totally about the guilt. We always think of we need to be somewhere else other than where we are. So I think for me, Craig, and everyone is just to slow down and be open. And like you guys have mentioned, whether it's meditation or sitting in the power, slowing down, taking those deep breaths, reminding myself that there's a bigger picture going on. And for me, when I look back on my life, I've had some really awful things happen to me and devastating loss and things I wouldn't want anybody to go through. But then looking where I am right now, today on the Sunday gathering, had those things not happened exactly the way they did, I wouldn't be here with you today. And when my heart wouldn't be this open. And I have some really wonderful friendships and a beautiful community, even though we're all over the world. You guys, we're family. So it's to remind myself of the bigger picture, to slow down. It's important to me to keep a book by my bedside that gets me thinking out of the box. It's important to me to do this Sunday gathering, because if I have a lousy day for whatever reason, or if I'm too much in my mind, to be able to be here with you or to do an interview or podcast reminds me of that bigger picture. So I think that is essential, because my mind, I don't know about yours, left to its own devices, can run away with itself, with everything undone, unsaid, guilt. And if you happen to be in that field with me, let's all just remember that our selves have done the best we could to the day we're here. Guilt is a waste of time. Our younger self, if it knew to do better, it would have done better. And I've witnessed so many miracles that I know our loved ones are around us, that our lives are for a reason, for us to explore, to learn, to discover, to share, to love, to forgive. And I think that all puts me back in the driver's seat in my life, as opposed to being in the back seat when this mind is in charge. Over to Tim.
Yeah, I'd say one of the key words that you're saying there to me would be the slowing down. It's funny, we all have that thing that we can do that gets us in the moment of reflection. And I think it's in that moment of reflection we can see what isn't necessarily within our control. So we can, if we can, release that. There are, even in the last 4 years, things that have gone on in personal lives, like family health or things as well. So those still test my impulsive side. And you might not judge that by the trees behind me, that I have an impulsive side, but it is there. And that's a constant battle to not have to do something, not something I should have done, not something that pleases people. That, I have to take that moment. And in the chat box, we're seeing like meditation, just driving for me also does that. Going outdoors, not just sitting in front of a canvas, but actually going outdoors, stopping to smell the roses, as they say. That frees up my mind, gives me perspective, and that perspective can change my mindset quite well. And just slowing down, because we put ourselves in a pace that is often so fast, detrimental to who we really want to be. And how can we possibly consider who we really want to be if we're too busy doing stuff that we feel we have to do? And over to you, Craig.
Yeah, I agree with what the both of you said. There's definitely like, it feels to me anyway, sometimes it's like I have to constantly, like classes, job, work, etc., all of that stuff. And there's always things you have to do and you have to manage. But like 9 times out of 10, I think the big takeaway I got around the past 4 years relating to relaxation and stuff was, if I wasn't able to enjoy the things that I loved, like, I love to watch movies. I love to go out in nature. I love to read books. I love to dance, believe it or not. Right? Don't judge. And all that stuff is things that fill my heart. I feel really good after it. I feel like I'm, how could I say, more myself, And that's the only way I can say it, is those things keep me on fire. They keep me active. They keep me, like Sandra says, present. I'm able to listen more, But my heart broke because I think at the time when I discovered, I think it was one day I was walking, I was really overworked and stuff, and I was really just worried about all these things that are, to be quite honest, is just a narrative in my head. It's actually not the fact. I think for me, there's a tendency to think that the future, that you can predict everything, that, this worst case scenario is going to happen every time. And because of those things, I couldn't enjoy dancing or movies or anything like that, because I was constantly having a battle with the kind of fun side of myself that wanted to go, hey, come on, like Elmo there, let's play, let's have fun. And I just couldn't relax. It was just so annoying. And on the odd occasions, that does pop up still, I have to admit. But it's not that good, depending on the situation, a good drink can cure anyway. So, but that's probably it for me, Tim. Thanks.
Thanks. Tim, you had one last question, and then we'll go on to our demonstration of mediumship.
Okay, great. And actually, for this last question too, I would say feel free to put your answer in the chat box too. It's something that ties us all together here as to our thoughts and our minds and our intent as well. So for the three of us out loud, if thinking of a sentence or two, what would you say to someone waiting and so eager to see a loved one who has passed into spirit? What would you say to them?
Like getting a sign or something like that?
Yeah, or just even as hope.
As hope. Okay. Well, I've been on this journey for 27 years, and I came as the biggest, nastiest skeptic, didn't believe in any of this. And over 650 plus interviews, plus my own miracles that I've seen in life, I know the reality of the afterlife. I know our loved ones live on. We're going to see them again, and they're part of our lives. The difficult thing is for us to know that. So I think when we get over there, they say there's no time. So what could be 20 years for us is just a blink of an eye for them. They may not feel that rush to communicate, or they may have communicated and you're not picking up on it. While it's great to go to a medium, and there's some very, very good ones out there, your loved ones are part of your life right now. So many people take out a pen and paper and talk to them. You may think you're just answering your own questions, but in time, it gives your loved one an opportunity to be more of them and less of you. Some people call that automatic writing. And also, there are subtle things that they do. And I know we talk about this all the time, to pay attention, to slow down, be in that present moment, relive some wonderful memories with your loved ones and talk to them. And don't be surprised if all of a sudden, like popcorn, different ideas pop into your mind. That's a way they communicate with us. There are certainly times that maybe they can turn the lights on and off and have those really wild things. But I think for all of us to slow down, be in that present moment, keep talking to them or write, and be present to those feelings. You could get goosebumps out of nowhere, or you could feel like a little bit of goosebumps maybe on your cheek that might be a little kiss, things like that. They're with us. It's evident. Keep talking to them, I would say. Yeah, that's what I need to say. All right, I'm done. Over to Craig.
I think depending on, if they were open to it or not, I think probably one of the more interesting things that I would recommend is to experiment, to just pure experiment, to find out for oneself if there is actually some form of an afterlife, And I think to an extent, doing this work is exactly that. But also there are things that can happen in dreams, for example. I have seen my own friends come forward in dreams, and I could not believe it, because it was as if it was just yesterday. And I've been in awe looking at something as simple as a dream and thinking, that was that him? Like, how did I not turn around and say, hey, what's up? Like, what's it like? And I kicked myself afterwards, but it was just like any other day, and I couldn't believe it. And it was a beautiful experience. And I would say a good few of those tends to bring it forward some level. You start thinking, yeah, okay, there must be, like, that's experiment 3,484. I think there's definitely something going on, like, So I think ways of doing that even is obviously signs and synchronicities and stuff, But I do love the dreams. I think because you can't really fake that, You can't fake someone looking in your eyes and making a joke, or telling you, yeah, my mum's outside, and I go downstairs to look and come back and they're gone. And it's like, what? So, and they do have a very, very, very good sense of humor. So that's the one thing to be prepared of. What about you, Tim?
I have to say that question comes from that question I've heard from other people saying, I've been waiting so long. I've wanted to hear from my spouse, my parent, whoever it was, my child. So that's where the basis of that question comes from. And time is sometimes needed. The time needed is often for healing. And sometimes we're not ready to hear from the people right away, and it takes time for us. And it's more so that, because as Sandra said, there is no time on the other side, as they say. So what they need to go through or process can be done in a flash. So when I think of that, I think it's ask. Oftentimes we just feel that, we wish, we feel that's a little passive. If we're a little bit more active, curious, think of the memories. I like that, because they come to life in memories, but also just to actually ask them to somehow step forward. It can be in dreams. It could be the soft touch. I have to watch that myself, because I often brush that away thinking that it's insect season here. But if I'm a little bit more subtle, a little bit more meditative, and finding in that peace and quiet, and for me personally, those thoughts are either last thing at night as I'm going to sleep, or first thing in the morning when I wake up. That missing, it's a sign of really missing. And that's the time where I feel, for me, what I would do is really verbally, out loud ask, make it a thing, create that energy of, please come in some sort of way. And if it's meant to be, please let that happen. And I think it's our intent. It's getting from the depths of our soul And what we can do in the meantime is, in my mind, stick with the memories, replay the memories, the happy times, the times where things were lively and fun. And I think that's where my answer is.
Well, thank you, Tim, and thank you, Craig. It's been a great thought-provoking conversation. And thank you all for the great things you've been putting in the chat box. Wow. So each and every Sunday gathering, it's a little different, each and every one, but we always want to leave you empowered. And so maybe this week you'll pay a little bit more attention, I know I will, to patience. So we're going to move on to our demonstration of mediumship now. And as Tim and Craig and myself are the representatives for all of our community that's on this side of life, we will get 4 individuals, 2 from each of our mediums today, contacts, which are real human beings who no longer walk this earth. Our loved ones are just as much part of this Sunday gathering as us that are alive in this world. And they're cozied up beside you, I think, not just on Sundays, but they love being part of your life. They are continuing to learn and grow in the afterlife, but they keep one foot in our world, which is so evident when we come together on our Sundays and with the medium demonstrations. So although there will be 4 people that are living that will get readings here today in our community, please know that, like our conversation about patience was designed for each and every one of us, those words that come through our loved ones, or the loved ones that come through, are meant for each one of us as well. So if there's some of the message or advice that you feel, oh, I could use a little bit of that myself, oh, just take it on board. We're well over 100 people with us today, so certainly we can't bring in everybody's loved ones. But these folks in the spirit world are just representations of all of our loved ones who are still part of our life. So if this is your first time with us on our Sunday gathering, or you've been with us before, a little refresher about how this goes. Both Tim and Craig are longtime members and students of our family since we started our program here 4+ years ago, training with the wonderful mediums of Carrie McLeod and Phil Dykes. And they will work and invite in their own way those members of the spirit world to work with them. Those loved ones use Tim and Craig's thoughts, their feelings, their memories, their emotions, maybe their sense of taste and smell and all those things to describe themselves. So you'll hear Tim and Craig give a few initial bits of information about the spirit person that has connected with them. All right. And then where it gets fun is they are going to give a best description they have of the person that is contacting them. And they're going to give us that description. Okay. So we want everybody on the edge of your seat. Is this your person? Now, your person could be a loved one, could be a friend, could be somebody you worked with, somebody in your circle that you knew that no longer walks this earth. And because we have a large group here today, I'm going to ask you if you can understand absolutely everything that they had described as your person. We want you to press your raise hand button. So now this is audience participation. Find that raise hand button on your device and press it for me. Okay. It's going to say, after you press it, it'll say lower hand. So you want to press that a few times. Raise hand, lower hand, raise hand, lower hand. Why this is important is because sometimes there's more than one person that can take all the information. So whether it's Craig or Tim, they're going to continue to work and give more information about the spirit person. So we're left ideally with one person with their hand raised. Now I know we're all on different devices all over the world, and sometimes technology does weird stuff. So this is a great opportunity in patience, isn't it? Yes, it is. Always good to exercise that patience. If you are the person that ends up working with our mediums today, I will press a button on my side, and you'll get a little pop-up on your screen that host would like you to unmute. And it's at that time where a button will appear on your device to unmute yourself. You won't be on camera, don't worry about that, but we love to hear your voice. And when I say your voice, limited responses, please. As we try to train everyone who ever has a medium reading, let the medium do the work, and you simply say yes, no, or I don't know to the information that they give you, okay? This is just to prevent us leaving the Sunday gathering saying, oh, did the medium really bring through my loved one, or did I offer all that information? So that we can all benefit. Just say yes, no, or I don't know. And don't feel bad if you have to say no if something doesn't fit. No simply means new opportunity, right? New opportunity. So that's how it goes. That's how our medium demonstration is done. I'm going to lower all these hands right now on my side. We'd like to play one feel-good piece of music before we start. Raises the energy a little bit. Talk to your loved ones if you'd like. They're cozy there with you in the room. And we'll play the song, and then we'll be right back with Tim as our first medium. So let me put on this song. Great music today, picked by the guys. That was one beautiful video. Thanks, guys, for picking that. All right, Tim, you're up first, my friend.
Thank you, Sandra. And just a reminder again of please, yes, no, and I don't know, or I don't know. If you can stick to that, that would be wonderful. I believe I have a young man with me here, and he's looking for mom. And I do feel that by young man, I feel that he would have been in his 20s when he passed. I do feel he grabbed onto the word impulsive that I said earlier, and I feel that's something he would be identified with, an impulsive man, young man. And I will say the expression talk to the hand, spoken ironically, would have been something he did. So does that match anyone?
All right, thanks. All right, friends, if you can understand all that information, go ahead and press your raise hand button. All right, we have four ladies with their hands raised. Tim?
Okay, great. And you do have to take all that information, please. So young men in spirit wanting to see mom, and it's talk to the hand. And I know very much that he would have expressed his opinion. It was not stuff that he would keep to himself.
Okay, if you can still take all that information, keep your hands raised. If not, be so kind as to lower your hand.
And I do feel with him, there is a memory of him leaving in anger and not coming back.
Thank you. Just letting everybody know we still have four ladies with their hands raised.
Okay, and I would also say with that anger, because I don't feel he's an angry man, I feel that that was part of the impulsiveness, that it was that last moment of anger, of frustration on his part, and he was gone out the door. And that's the last conversation.
Okay, thank you. If that moment of anger was the last conversation you had with him, please keep your hand raised. If not, lower your hand, please.
Okay. And we still have people, so that's great. I feel that with also this gentleman that he was going back to how often he would speak his mind, speak up for himself, say what was on his mind. He would do that with the family and not so much in public. He was not a public persona type, very shy.
Okay, thank you very much. If your son is also very shy for the rest of the world, keep your hand raised. If not, lower your hand. I'm going to say the names of everybody who's got their hands raised, just in case someone is by accident. Julie, Lori, and Joyce, you have your hand raised, who say they can take 100% of the information. Okay, now we down to Julie and Lori.
Okay. Can I speak to Julie, please?
Sure. Now, Julie, you should be able to see an unmute button that's popped up. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hi, Julie. You can accept all of that information?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you would understand that this young man would have most often wore black pants.
I don't know that that's accurate.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because I'm getting the sense from him about black jeans. So if we could ask our other person, Lori.
And just stay where you are, Julie. Lori, could you press your unmute button? Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Lori, can you understand everything plus the black jeans?
Yes.
Okay. Stay listening for a bit, Julie. Lori, I'm going to work with you if that's okay. So, Lori, I do feel very much that His personality most of the time was quite it's funny, sarcastic.
Yes.
And in fact, he could actually elevate a room by how intelligent that little line of sarcasm would be.
Yeah. Yes.
And I feel that he also liked to really yank your chain. He's saying, "Mom,"
Oh my goodness. Yes.
and there'd be a memory of trying to make sure I get this right. I don't feel he had an earring. Well, I can't say that. I feel as if he pretended to have a piercing before he actually got one.
Uh, no.
No,
No.
okay. Then if he didn't pretend, then he went and got a piercing without letting you know.
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. It may be a general kind of expression on his part that he wants to go back to yanking her chain again. He would pretend that he had done something that he actually hadn't done.
Oh yes.
Okay. And I do feel that he was really interested in tattoos.
No.
No,
No.
there's a sense of a tattoo on the left arm, though. You would understand that he had some great buddies. He had about 2 or 3 buddies of his,
Yes.
and that one of those buddies would have immortal. I can't think of the right word. Memorialized. There we go. Him with a tattoo.
I don't know.
Okay, if that's not it, then one of those friends of his who has a tattoo, there's one who stands out as a close friend.
I don't know.
Okay, that may come up a little bit later. I hate to leave something like that, but I do feel as if he wants to make a special nod. So there's almost an appeal from Mom that he didn't get to speak to that gent as well before he left. We'll leave that though for the side because I know he wants to talk about you. He wants to talk about the way that he was when he left. There was a lot of frustration and anger when he left the house.
Yes.
Okay, just getting that very careful on his part. There would be a slamming of the door as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And also I feel him speeding away.
I don't know that part.
Okay. But he wants to make it very clear that anger is not necessarily his personality trait. That's really not who he is.
Yes, yes, I know.
Very uncharacteristic. Okay, it's a bit of a struggle because he wants to go right to message, so I will go by his wishes. I feel from him that if there's any way to change the last moment, he would.
Oh.
He wants you to know that there's nothing on your part that has to do with that. He's making me aware that and we talked about guilt earlier, that you've been feeling a little bit of guilt around this.
Yes.
Yes. And he's very adamant that he had to come through today in order to say to you that let that go. He takes full responsibility for his actions, his mood, and what led up to that, if you understand.
Yes. I do.
He's giving me a memory of him as a young boy. I just want to highlight that for a second. He used to do little funny acts to kind of get attention. Do you know what I mean?
I do know. Yes.
Yeah. It's sort of that to make people laugh. I do feel he loved to make people laugh, especially when he was young.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah. And he's wanting that memory to be the one to hang on to. That's who he is. That's the person he is. He grew up to be intelligent. He's letting me know. He
Yes.
grew up to be that little bit of sarcastic, and he found his own voice. He was not one to follow others.
Yes. Yes.
He's a strong young man, and he really worked to come through as soon as the word impulsive came, because he's identifying that as a key word. There's another, besides talk to the hand, there is another saying that he used to do, but in jest. Like, he's not really using that old expression. He's being sarcastic even when he says talk to the hand. Oh yeah, there it is. Thanks. It was well duh. You would recognize him saying well duh.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is, yeah, he's implying that is so him. Um, so I thank him for coming through, and I thank you as well. And please take his message to heart. He came
Thank
through
you
for
so
us.
much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Takes a second here to just kind of let the next spirit person sort of move in. Um, okay. I feel I have Mom's sister as aunt, and her name is Mary. And okay, I'll go with and Mary um, made sure that her hair was always perfectly permed. So this is an aunt by the name of Mary, hair perfectly permed, and I feel that it's Mom's sister.
Thank you very much, Tim. All right, friends, if you can understand that and the perm, raise your hand. Okay, we have Lori and Dawn with their hands raised.
Great. Okay. So with Mary, I do feel there'd be memories of her actually in, and it's not a traditional rocking chair. It's more like a cushioned chair that rocked.
Ladies, can you understand the chair?
It's a
Keep your
memory
hands raised.
about this woman.
Yeah, Lori and Dawn, different
Okay,
Lori,
both-
have their
both
hands
people.
raised.
Okay, that's great. I also feel with this lady, oh, okay, she's, sorry, the big round glasses would have been hers, but she tried not to wear them very often.
Okay, girls, can you both understand that? Both hands remain up.
Okay.
Big glasses.
Can we speak to both of them?
Sure, we can. All right. We got Lori A and Dawn L. Lori, can you press your unmute button? Hi, Lori.
Hello.
Hi, Lori. You understand all of this information?
I do.
Okay, great. If I could work with you for a couple more minutes here. Okay, along with she's taking me back to that rocking chair that was a little bit different. There are memories too, I feel, with her needing to get a little bit of a head start push out of that rocking chair.
I can understand that.
Would that make sense? Okay, great. And I feel she's a lady who would be willing to laugh at herself at the right times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she didn't, and I'm trying to get something more in there because I feel that she wouldn't make jokes about herself. She wasn't self-deprecating. That was very clear. Instead, she was one that could just have a chuckle, and I feel like it's a body chuckle when there is something that was quite funny.
Yes.
Okay, so Dawn, keep listening, but Lori, I'm going to work with you, continue to work with you. And I do feel part of Mary's personality, though, it was hard to pin her down on an opinion. She would like to play all fields. Would you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah. But the reason she liked to do that is that she wouldn't want to upset anyone or insult anyone.
I understand that.
Yep. Okay. It's funny because she has quite the nice laugh. It's you would remember a warm laugh, but you could still hear it from the other room.
Yes.
Okay. And speaking from the other room, I feel that she'd be in the living room. People are working in the kitchen. She would want the darndest to be in there working in the kitchen, but she had to be told not to.
100%.
Yeah. But it's twofold there. She loves to help people, but also she loves to get in there and find out what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. From her, I'm getting the expression, now I'm not one to gossip, but. So I feel very much that she'd be in there getting a good tale, but I do feel that she did have a definite boundary as to privacy for other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that she's letting me know that that has to do with family. There are some things that she knew within the family that she did not express.
Oh, absolutely. Very respectful.
Yeah, and those things would have come out. Isn't it funny? Okay, there must be family gatherings that occurred frequently where she would be
Yes.
involved. And I feel as if okay, there may be a specific memory here, but I feel that she would lead the conversation away from a delicate topic.
That's very much her.
Yeah. It's like she wants to be everyone's mom.
Yes.
And I feel that there's a time there, she's making me aware of reaching out to yourself there. You would understand a time there where you really needed a calm, a supportive voice, and she was the one who did it.
Yes.
Okay, so she's bringing that memory forward as okay, as a reminder that it wasn't just that one incident of love for you. She had that same feeling all the time. That's how she looked at you.
Oh.
Now,
Yes.
she's letting me know you have a son. Is that correct?
Yes. 2, 1
2.
passed.
Okay. So I believe she's aware of the son in the living. She's highlighting that there is something that he's going through at the moment. Would that make sense to you?
Possibly.
Okay. I take a possibly as a no, usually.
Okay.
But she's giving awareness to the son in the living, as in support, as in he needs maybe perhaps there's a highlight there of additional support being required. Now, and you mentioned his brother is in the spirit world, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And those two boys used to get on famously.
Yes.
Okay. And also that's Big Brother who passed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel that Big Brother is also, he must have been kind of a big guy because he's muscling in. Would that make sense?
Mm,
No?
not in a physical sense.
Okay, feel free to say no, absolutely. But he
No.
is sort of, if he's not built that way, then there's definitely, it's not aggressive, assertive, there's the word. He is more
Yes.
assertive. Okay, so he's also stepping forward to, he's making me aware too that he wants to highlight the care you gave to him
Okay. Thank you.
when he needed it. He may not have been able to talk about all of that all the time, but that support meant the world for him. And your aunt must have passed before him,
Yes.
because he's letting me know that aunt was there to meet him, which is
Cool.
that's really nice. That it was, and I feel he's bringing this forward as you may have had a concern of his transition. He's
Yes.
letting me know that because aunt was right there, it was part of a smooth transition,
Thank you.
and that he wants you to know that compassion that you felt for him specifically at the moment of passing registered, and that's such a help for that ease of passing for him.
Thank you.
He's also highlighting his brother, so please acknowledge his brother, and just to let him know, if you can, about the reading that he came through, and that his brother is also supporting him too.
That makes so much sense. Yes. Thank
Great.
you.
And with that, I feel both aunt and son are moving away. Thank you very much for allowing me to work with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, and
Thank
thanks,
you,
Sandra.
Lori. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Absolutely inspiring to see you work there this evening. Sandra, just a heads up, can you hear everything I'm saying?
Yes.
Lovely. So ladies and gentlemen, just before we begin, I'd like to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on today. I can't say how much I've enjoyed it. It's been fascinating to hear the stories that have come forward. I know grief and guilt is difficult at times, but it's good to have a community to feel safe and at least feel a little bit heard, at times. And just as I say that as well, and as I begin to work with the spirit world, I know I have a gentleman stepping forward here. And I get the impression as well from this gentleman that his name was actually, I want to say his name was actually Philip as well. And I also want to talk about him being a very emotional man. And I get the impression that when it came to his sensitive side, it was difficult for him to express his emotions. And I do feel this is father as well, Sandra. So I know I have father here. His name is Philip, and I know he has that emotional side as well.
Thank you very much. All right, friends, who understands this information, press your raise hand button. All right, we have Ilana with her hand raised.
Ilana, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can, of course. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to meet you anyway. You understand your father is in the spirit world and his name is Philip.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll proceed. Just as I'm getting to know father here, it does feel like there's a lot of difficulties with him communicating his emotions at times with yourself. Do you understand this?
Yes, I do.
Where I'm talking about this, I know it's where father could share stories with you, Alana, about how he felt. It's almost like he would talk about everything except his emotions.
Yeah.
Because I
Because-
get the impression there's stories there of him sharing about his workplace with you as well.
Yes.
And I also get the impression that when I speak about his workplace, I'm working on some form of either train operations or things like that as well. Trains.
No. No.
Then would you understand where there are situations where he would have worked with either machinery or that sort?
Yes.
Okay, because I know it's just this heavy machinery though. Do you understand where they're quite large vehicles nearly?
I'm sorry, didn't understand.
Do you understand where the engine, it's like he was an engineer. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Right. Because I know he's straight to the point. I know he could be blunt at times as well. Do you understand this? Blunt.
Yes. Yeah.
I know he would say it as it is. And I know sometimes as well, it hurts also.
Yes.
Because I know when I talk about father's emotional side, it's almost as if he didn't get that chance to show that sensitivity in him. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And I know at times as well, it's been difficult because he wasn't able to express how much, in fact, at times that he loved you. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Because I know he's come forward today to share that. I know he, I'm sorry, he must have had quite a funny sense of humor though as well.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like I want to come in and get things done and then say I'm gone. So you know when he was in work, he must have come in to get his work. Do you understand where he wouldn't be present at the home as much?
Yes.
Because I know he's making almost his sarcasm with that. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And we're trying to talk about feelings, and I know he's veered us away from that again. But I do understand that he was tended to be avoidant of that because his rearing was quite difficult as well.
Yeah.
And when it came to emotions with father, it was very much a case of it's almost like it goes back through the family. Do you know where it's not the best with emotions?
Yes.
And I know with the grandfather as well. In fact, his father would have been the exact same.
I don't know.
But I just know that this goes back though through the family. And I do have to say that there were moments as well where there were shared conversations about emotions as well between the two of you.
Yeah.
And this was particularly to do with the difficulties that were coming up in the relationship.
Um, I'm not sure.
1 second here. Alana, would you understand that you've tried to have conversations with your father after he has passed?
Yeah.
Because I know that's heard and I know he is here. And because there's one thing I want to say as well is that I'm here for you right now. And that's the biggest thing that he's bringing forward here. Because your father, although he couldn't say, I loved you, he showed it through his actions. And he had to try and make, I know there were difficulties with money as well. I know there were also times when he wasn't able to be himself because he was overworked, as we spoke about before. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And I also know that this was his sense of trying to show his love through duty towards you and the family. Okay. So I just want to say thank you very much for working with me. And I leave your father's sense of duty and presence with you and say thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilana. Thank you, Craig.
And we wait.
Patiently.
Mhm. As I begin working with the spirit world again, I know I have Father here again in the spirit world, but I feel as though Father wants to speak to Son, in fact. And I also get the impression, one second here. Sandra, I want to say I have Father here, and I know he's just quite controlling. It's almost like I can't get to know him. I can't understand him. So would someone understand here a Son? I want to speak to Son, who may not have actually connected with Father, if that's understood, please.
All right. Do we have a gentleman with us today whose father is in the spirit world, and there really wasn't a connection? Is that what you're saying, Craig?
Yeah, I want to speak to someone who actually hasn't. I'm getting the impression that I haven't actually spoken to Dad or gotten to know him properly.
All right, gentleman with us, if that makes sense with your dad, if you would raise your hand, your virtual hand, please. If your dad didn't get to know you properly. All right, we have John with his hand raised. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Thanks for your patience. Thank you.
And Jay, I see your hand just went up as well. We have John with his microphone open. Hi, John.
Hey,
Hi,
good
John.
morning.
How are you doing, John?
Doing great.
Good. If I understand this correctly, your father is in the spirit world, yes?
Yes.
It feels as though your father wasn't the most. In fact, it feels like there's not too much known about Father. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Okay. I do feel as though there are stories relating to Father that have been shared about him.
Stories related to.
I feel do you understand? The only thing I can give here is, do you understand where Father could have been controlling, though? Would you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, because I know that's just the only thing he's left me with is this, and this sense of not getting to know him, and this sense of just a great deal of distance. But I do feel I'm speaking about how he was from other people. So would you understand where this information comes from, either family as well that was present?
Yes.
Okay, and I know with this as well, it feels like he was, from what I've learned here, he was an educated man as well, actually.
No.
Okay, one second. I feel as though the relationship, from what I understand, with controlling, do you understand where he got quite the temper as well, from what you've heard?
Yes.
Okay, right. Because just as in getting to know him here, John, it feels like, in fact, your father was actually, if I say that you were born before father was present, is that correct? Or after he was present?
No, he was present.
Okay. But as I'm getting this feeling like he hadn't been around, though. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And I know from this feeling, it's like where do you understand if I say father dropped the responsibility when he was here?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know I'm getting this impression that he wasn't the most present with yourself as well.
Yes.
And I just get the sense that there was, while he was here, much difficulty in him. There were a lot of things that Father could have said to you, could have been, and it just feels like he wasn't at that time. Do you understand, John?
Yes.
I get the impression as well that he would wanted to. Would you understand from hearing about your father that he was actually an avid gambler as well?
Doesn't surprise me.
But do you understand where I'm talking about him placing bets or such like that? I might have 1 second here. John, am I right in saying, would you understand that for yourself at the moment? That you tend to place a bet on a horse or something?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I know that's father, because there's not too much known. That's his way of showing I see that. And it actually, I get the impression that times that with that control and behavior, he could sometimes point out faults as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that's just the way he was when he was here. And I do get the impression that with what's known, there was a bit of perfectionism in that as well. You
Yes.
understand, John?
Yes.
Because I know this affected yourself as well, going forward through life as well. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And I know that there, for what I'm experiencing here, I know he would never say anything like an apology either.
Yes.
Because I know that when he felt he was right, it was just the truth. And if he couldn't take it and it hurt, that was your problem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I know this is his way of coming forward. I know it's his way of trying to bring that relationship forward again. And I do know that it feels as though there wasn't the best of emotions there. But I know this is his way of saying in his own way that he apologizes for that and sees how it's affected you, sees what you're doing. And I'll just leave his presence with you, John, if I can as well, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thanks very much, Sandra, for allowing me to be here.
Oh, thank you. My friends, can I ask you just press that raise hand button as a little bit of gratitude for Tim and Craig? They came up with our theme today and the music and doing the demonstration. Both Tim and Craig have been longtime members of our community. I know for our new folks, you haven't gotten a chance to meet our tutors, which are Carrie McLeod and Phil Dykes. Our new classes begin this week, and you don't ever have to want to be a medium, but there is magic that happens when you learn how to work with the power of your soul, how we perceive information, and you go into breakout rooms on Zoom, and things that you think are your imagination aren't. Some could be, but many times they aren't. And you learn first how to work soul to soul with another person and do what's called psychic readings. And mediumship is just a small slice of that psychic pie. Once you understand how to use that psychic muscle, you start pointing it to those people that are in the spirit world. And that's what's called mediumship. So if you want to join us on Wednesday, the new class starts. Whether you join us live or you can't join us live, you get the replays for all the classes. There's also a private Facebook group that you can meet people and you can practice. So that's called soul to soul communication that begins on Wednesdays. On Thursdays, if you do have some practice and you want to step into that level of total mediumship, it's called the next level of mediumship, which happens on Thursdays. As always, not everyone gets a reading. It's impossible, but our friends from the spirit world show us just how close they are, that they're part of our lives, all of our lives, that they see us in action and what we're doing. They are healthy, whole, well, happy. You know, they're not living, while there are apologies, of course, they're living their best life, their best age, their best health, all of that. And I know that to be a fact, and I give my life to that after all this many years. We have some other classes as well happening. You can join physical in trance medium, Scott Milligan and myself tomorrow, which is Monday. There's a class called Trance and the Altered States. It's not mediumship where we work in breakout rooms. Whether you're interested in slowing the mind down or trance communication. It doesn't matter. It's an opportunity to learn to slow down that mind and have that gentle blending with loved ones and our inspirers in the unseen world, I'll call it. On Tuesdays, our friend Scott is doing what's called sitting in the power hours. It's like plugging in our spiritual battery. It's an hour to slow down, and he leads us into that gentle blending, I'll say that. On Friday, we're back with Scott Milligan in what's called In the Arms of Eternity. It is a trance medium demonstration with healing included. So we start off by sending healing for the world, and Scott is one of the leading trance mediums in the world. And out of the stillness, with our eyes closed, another voice comes out of him, and it's our friend Mr. Eric, who passed in the end of the 1800s, as a matter of fact. And for 4 years, we've been carrying on these Friday conversations, and you can ask your question of the afterlife, about life, death, and whatever. So that's on Fridays. I don't mean to say whatever as being disrespectful, but it really is a time to know how close the afterlife really is and how much support we do have. I've got a couple of new podcast episodes that you'll find at the home base of WeDon'tDie.com. We have medium Jamie Miller, who is with us today, who I interviewed on We Don't Die Radio, and on Shades of the Afterlife. It's a look at deathbed visions just before we pass, all those loved ones that come to greet us and those people that open their eyes and see loved ones. Pretty spectacular. Again, that's at WeDon'tDie.com. I know there's many people in our community today that are suffering the loss of a loved one. If you have not yet taken me up on my offer for a free copy of my book, it's the PDF version, the computer version, please do so. Just at the bottom at WeDon'tDie.com, you can just enter your name and your email address, and it says you'll get the first few chapters. It's the entire book. Chapter 10 is How to Survive Grief. I've given it my all. Why do we grieve? How do we move through the grieving process? And it has so much powerful information. So please don't miss that. Next week, we have a guest medium, Dominic Bogue, who will be with us, and our friend Darren will be back. And I think that's it for the announcements. Everything you can find at WeDon'tDie.com. I want to just put in one last thing. We're talking about patience. I also want to say how important gratitude is. And there's a secret recipe, I think, for miracles and making things happen in our life. We can certainly have a goal, we can have a dream, we can have that intention, but we need to verbalize it some way. And I think those in the unseen world give us what we want. And if not that, it's something better. So play a little game with me and you'll find out some awesome stuff happens. Give gratitude for things as if they've already happened. If you want to have a great relationship with somebody in your life, look for the good things and be grateful for them. It'll open up a whole new kind of relationship. So practice gratitude. Send out that into the universe if you want to say that, and then just have patience. All right. Keep busy, keep in the present moment, and you can never go wrong. I'm going to pass it over to Craig right now for our closing prayer before our final song, and then we'll let you go for the day. Craig.
Thank you very much, Sandra. To whomever you acknowledge as God, let us pray together now. Dear Spirit, dear Father, dear infinite force, thank you very much for allowing us to be here together as a community, but also as a group of people with their own individual experiences of life. We heard today how many struggles were overcome. We heard today how much guilt had been a part of our lives. Allow our heavy hearts, if they are heavy, to become light again. And allow patience to run through our souls to help us to carry on the work of the Spirit and our individual lives. And I say thank you for allowing us to be here. Amen.
Thank you so much, Craig. And thank you to Tim. And thank you to you folks, wherever in the world you are. You're now part of our family. If you haven't been before, you are forever and ever. And thank you to our friends in the spirit world. We'll be patient, and we know you are with us. So with that, our closing song is Calling All Angels. Very appropriate for our communication today. That was beautiful. Thanks again, everybody. You are part of our family. Come visit us at wedon'tdie.com. And a shout out to friends who made it possible, who have donating on our Sunday gathering page at wedon'tdie.com. Love you all. Remember, you are surrounded with love. Your life is for a purpose. Have intentions, be patient, and be present. Thanks again to Tim and Craig. Mwah. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week, if not sooner, on one of the classes.